I come from an Italian family, so even though I don't have a huge frame, I have a naturally booming voice. Come on in, there's plenty of room. We haven't started. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's all right. I have that big physically imposing threat on people sometimes. They're like, Leo, just stop. So, okay. Well, welcome everybody. Today is, I got to find my clicker. Here we go. So today's session is about the paperless agency in 2021. And I am standing in front of you as somebody that started my HawkSoft journey in 2017. I didn't start life in the insurance world. I actually started life as a person that doesn't have a good, did I mess this up? It says on, off. Okay. There we go. Yep, you're good. Just had to wake it up. Okay, anyway, so we'll start over. Welcome. Clicker works, microphone works. So today is the paperless agency in 2021. Now, everybody's agency operates a little different. If you guys heard me speak yesterday, a theme and a pillar that I stand on is your processes and procedures have to accurately represent what your agency does every day. What Jem Young does might be a little different than you guys, and that's totally fine. My job is to consult. I don't know everything, so if you guys have something that I'm doing that can be improved, I am all ears. So, COVID. So here's what we're going to talk about. What is paperless, right? What does it truly mean? How paperless should you be? Why should you really care? Seriously, I mean, everybody talks about this, but why should it matter to you? I think that's a question that people don't ask enough, is why should I care about what's going on? We're going to talk about a couple of ways to reduce waste. The Japanese call this muda, and you're going to continuously hear me reference the Japanese at certain points, and you'll understand here in a second. And how to leverage digital media and tools to stay relevant in 2021 and beyond. So this is me, and I keep bringing up the Japanese because I am a industrial engineer by trade. I went to school for hybrid of mechanical and industrial engineering, and I kind of got bored, so I picked up a math minor, right? I had nothing else to do. So what that means is I spent the first part of my career optimizing manufacturing processes, and I used a process called Six Sigma, which is statistical process control. So basically, it's a very in-depth way to measure, evaluate, and then take that data and apply it to the real world. And ISO 9001-2015 is not the Insurance Services Organization, it is the International Standards Organization, which is what every engineering firm on planet Earth has to be compliant with if you want to get any sort of meaningful contract. I say that not to brag about my credentials, but I want you guys to know that I don't look at the world as an insurance agent. I look at the world as how do we build stuff? How are we building products? How are we building services? And how are we using those processes to our advantage to push out the best product possible? I'm a football fan. Go Browns. That's it. So I want you guys to all go through this visual journey with me for a second. Let's pretend that you don't work at an insurance agency. You don't own one. You don't run one. You're not the producer. You're not the CSR. You're putting on a hard hat. Everybody now works at a manufacturing company. What does that look like for you? You show up. You check in, you have a machine, you have steel, and you take that steel and you run it through a rough machine. And then you take that steel and then you put it through what we call a 5-axis turn mill. So you're getting that product more and more precise, right? And along the way, you're measuring these products, right? So as you get towards the end and finishing operations, how is this working? You're having to write programs. You're having supervisors measure your efficiency. We have things called cycle time, how long it takes for that product to be produced. I know I'm going down the rabbit hole, but stay with me here for a second. When you produce an insurance policy, what is different between building an insurance policy and building a crankshaft? That's what I used to build, crankshafts. Outside of the quite literal difference, you're still doing fact-finding. Fact-finding is the blueprint, right? That is the underwriting blueprint to get your client from uncovered to covered. You have a cycle time. That's the time you spend in the meetings. That's the time you spend doing all of our phone calls with underwriting. That's the time we spend presenting and proposing. So at the end of the day, we can really kind of roll this into one sort of process. So now you guys are all following where I'm going here? Okay. I sometimes take for granted that I spent times literally inside of these machines. So if you're not following me here, jump in. So you're no different. Your CSRs are your maintenance engineers. Your CSRs are taking problems, and they're taking your clients' issues, and they're helping them solve them. Your producers are your machinists. They're the people that are taking the raw material and providing value to it, a value-added process. The value-added processes that insurance agents provide, that's the advice. That's the coverages. That's saying that, okay, we know in the state of Ohio in the Northeast quadrant, your two most likely claims are wind and water. That's the value-added services you're providing, just like the value-added service is the guy that runs the machine. So what do you do in the 70s and 80s when everything was manual, right? When you ran machines, when you were a manufacturing company, you had to do everything by hand. You had to measure by hand. You had to literally cut it by hand. I'm getting to accord forms, by the way, when we're talking about a manual process. So if you were imagining this very manual world that you used to live in, and then one of these days, somebody comes out and says, hey, by the way, we can write a program for this machine. And this program, we call it G-code, will be written once, and then all you do is you put the steel in there and you push it and you walk away. And the machine does all the work for you. Gone are the days of having the guy sit here and turning the handles, and gone are the days of the guy having to take the calipers and measuring it. And what I'm getting at is I want you to think of the invention of computer numerically controlled manufacturing as becoming more of a paperless and automated agency. Gone are the days of faxing and mailing applications and change forms, and arriving the days of electronic signatures. Quick show of hands, just to keep you guys all awake here. How many of you are using electronic signatures? I'm proud of all of you. That's amazing. Fantastic. So as our products become more advanced, our processes become more efficient. So when you bring in these new technologies, the technology to eliminate paper and the technology to make your clients' lives better is just as important as being efficient. You follow me so far? Awesome. OK. So this is why you should care. And this is a fun survey for me because I got my credit card bill recently, and I was very unhappy with what a certain line of that bill was. During the last 18 months, how many of you purchased food from DoorDash? It's OK. Don't be embarrassed. I spent way too much on DoorDash this last year and a half. How many of you, when you're getting a ride somewhere from the airport to San Diego, did you hire an Uber? OK. How many of you do mobile banking online? Are you seeing the point I'm getting to? So the world itself is moving towards an automated way. We're no longer using our hands to do the things we used to do. We can have computers do these, right? People don't look at their insurance any differently. People want to have a digital insurance experience, and it's going to make sense for you to do it. So when you had to do a change form in the past, how many people were around when you had to mail out a change form? Just out of curiosity. OK, when I started working for my father in 2016, I had to mail out a change form. I did it once in my brief stint as a CSR, and I just wouldn't do it again. You're shaking your head, right? 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 What's your name? Taryn. Yes, I appreciate how much you're following me. But it's right. You had to mail those out, and it was truly a nightmare. So paper costs money, right? I mean, these are just kind of some facts I can throw at you, but think about when you have this process. You mail out an application. You mail out a change form. Paper costs money. 2021 is not the advent of people caring about the environment, but it's sure a bigger feature, or it's a bigger benefit to a sale than it used to be. How many people have seen a Subaru commercial in the month of December? I used to drive Subarus. I love them. Do you know what the Subaru, you're nodding your head. Do you know what Subaru does in December? It's called the Share the Love event. Buyers today and society today wants to participate in a company or product that has some sort of noble purpose, right? So one of the things that you can do by going paperless of why you should care is you can start to tell your clients, and I would absolutely advertise the daylights out of this, that your company is taking a stance in protecting the environment in as good of a way as possible. This is not a political statement. I'm not telling you how to think. But the truth is, if you're spending less money on paper, there's more trees. It's just a simple calculus there. One of the cool things about paperless, and what I didn't say, and I'm hoping you all read on there, is a paperless agency is a remote agency. How many people throw their sales team out of their office? Tell your sales guys, get out of here. Go. Go on the road. Nobody? Would anybody like to? No? Why not?
I want him next to me so I can talk to him. He can make his phone calls, do his appointments, but I'm going to be at that appointment with him most likely. And I want to hear, what's happening in the system. Like, what's going on with this sale?
OK. Taryn, what's your role in your agency?
Account executive.
Account executive, OK. So what is your job function as an account executive?
First and foremost is issuing certs.
OK.
Believe it or not. My other role is to quote the policies, support the producer. Where I rely on the producer is to bounce back on him to reach out to the client.
OK.
So I keep the ball rolling, and he keeps the communication rolling.
That's probably a very good way to put it. I like that. You keep the ball rolling, he keeps the communication rolling. OK. What did you guys do during the pandemic? Were you able to work from home at all?
Yeah, prior to the pandemic, we were working 100% remote. He started up his agency a little bit before, in 2019, and then the pandemic hit, and he was already working with an employee in Minnesota. He had an employee in San Diego that wasn't comfortable coming into the office, so.
Okay.
But the adaption, we did create an open office floor plan through Zoom. I feel like I have more contact with my producer than I ever have. I feel like I can hear his voice and ask him questions, and if I need to, he's right there.
Mm-hmm. This will never replace in-person communication entirely. And the purpose of embracing paperless technology and automation isn't to remove the client experience or replace it. It's meant to enhance the client experience. So everything that you said that you loved, I don't think you should change that. I think you should just maybe, whatever you can do to help streamline and maybe reduce waste, right? I said the Japanese and Muda, that's their word, that's a Six Sigma thing. Paperless helps you eliminate waste. I'll tell you a story, and Taryn, I know it'll make you cringe. I'm already cringing telling it. So my dad hires me in 2016, and I start working, and we used to have a scan pile. And no joke, every day, the scan pile was probably this tall. And Connie would spend the last 3 hours of her day scanning. Connie makes $26.50 an hour. We were spending a fortune, an absolute fortune, to scan documents. It was insane. So what we did, we started with a couple of basics. I'm definitely deviating from this. I'm kind of a deviator on terms of the slideshow, but just to give you an example, if you could take that process and not have somebody paying $75 a day plus health insurance benefits and life insurance and everything else to scan, and you can have that electronically, it's not only environmentally friendly, it saves you money. And if you're trying to sell your agency and you're getting older and you don't have a perpetuation plan, or you're just trying to get out of the industry, if you guys saw Dr. Billy this morning, he had a really, really good point about valuing your agency. I almost wish he was here with me to kind of piggyback, because these are definitely in conjunction with each other, but agencies that are more modern are more valuable. So if you're trying to sell your agency, you got to invest a little bit to kind of get up with the times here. Any questions on where I'm at so far? You guys all follow me? Awesome. So you get here and you say, Leo, this is great. I want to be paperless. I want to start improving my processes and procedures. But what do? You're 2016 Gem Young, and you're staring down a massive scan pile. How do you start? Well, in the engineering world, I would say that we would pick off the lowest hanging fruit possible. Because what you want to do is you want to win, and you want to give your staff confidence. So what we started with, and this is going to be redundant, was e-signatures. That was great. Does everybody get policy downloads? Does anybody not get policy downloads? You don't get policy downloads?
We get a little bit of both. On the commercial side, it's like some of them download and some do not.
Is the commercial non-downloads of those excess and surplus lines?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a good rant about that yesterday. I feel your pain. I do. There's only so much you can do with excess and surplus lines, in all fairness. Do they email you documentation, or do they mail you documentation?
Both.
Both?
Both. There's some that still send us out. I mean, mail, yes.
Yeah.
But
That
a lot
used-
of them will email it now.
Did they ever offer to email it by any chance?
We've asked them to. Most of them are now, but we still have a few companies that do not.
Ah, wow. That's kind of surprising.
Yes. Very.
It's a lot of papers. Well, that's what we used to do. That's that part of that scan pile. One of the things that, when we went through that pile and thought to ourselves, okay, how do we make this more efficient? One of the things we were scanning was policies. So as you know, what was your name back there? Kimberly. As Kimberly knows, when they send commercial policies, they're not small, right? Commercial policies are a couple hundred pages, so scanning those. So what we ask them to do, and if it's possible, just to email them copies of the policy, we just drag it and drop it into HawkSoft. Or if you're really savvy and you have your email and HawkSoft linked, it's a lot easier because you don't have to go through all that, waiting to do it. So what we would start with is something easy, and I would say do a process analysis. How many people have written processes and procedures in their agency? That's amazing. How often do you audit those processes? Not enough. I know. I'm sitting here, saying that, but we should probably audit ours too. We're going to have to, I think a quarterly audit's a good idea. So I would say a process analysis. So if I was coming into your agency, just like I did for my dad at Gem Young, and I said, okay, how do we become more efficient? We would analyze our most inefficient processes, lowest hanging fruit. For us, it was the scan pile. So for a couple of weeks and a couple of months, we went through every single document scan, and we asked ourselves, does this need to exist? Why does it need to exist? Grange Insurance was sending us paper copies and downloading policies into our management system. We're like, guys, we appreciate you really doing your best to make sure we have the policies, but do we need 2 copies of it? The insured's getting a copy, we're getting a paper copy, plus we're getting a downloaded policy, plus we were scanning it, so at any given time, we had like 10 copies of your policy. So those are the easy ones, so I would start there. What you do from there is kind of up to you, but what I would say is I would start with a power user. So when you're doing that scanning file, right, Connie, like I said, Connie was in charge of scanning. Connie became the power user that we designated. So Connie was one of the ones that helped us write the process. The people that are doing your manual operations every day, I would absolutely recommend roping them into the solution for a couple of reasons. From a management standpoint, having your employees have a hand in what goes on not only gives them ownership, but it gives them buy-in. And really, I'm our chief revenue officer. I don't do the CSR work anymore. I've moved to a completely different position. So there's a lot of processes that I know exist. I know how they exist. But maybe the fine nuances we don't quite know. So part of your process analysis, figure out how it exists and know exactly what you're doing. And if you haven't written it down, I would absolutely recommend writing down your processes. How many people, when you're writing down your processes, date them? I don't mean take them out to dinner, but you write a date on them. OK. Timestamp it? Exactly. You're ahead of me, the revision number. OK. What do you do with your old revisions?
I keep them in a folder and kind of like,
OK. Well, that's the ISO way to do it. Did you guys hear what he said? That's awesome. Yep. Take the old ones, keep them for records, get rid of them, get them out of the staff's hands, put the new ones in their hands. Any questions so far? So here's a list of stuff that I would recommend beginning. These are all of the things that my agency has actually done to become paperless. Now, if you'll notice, some of these have nothing to do with the paperless process, but they kind of do. You might be sitting here saying, why are you telling me to use a video proposal about being paperless? How many people still present a paper quote proposal to your insureds? OK. Why? Why are you guys still using a paper quote proposal? Just out of curiosity. I'm not challenging you or trying to be hard, but.
for us, it depends on the individual.
OK.
I mean, there are some people that just, they don't want it emailed to them or they want to come to the office.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that, what is it, 15, 20% close ratios are higher with video, something like that. I know it's huge.
It's actually about 3 times higher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something that we started a little bit and then we stopped, which I don't know why you're saying why. But it really got down to what the end person was asking for.
Sure.
What they wanted to be communicated with.
You're always going to have folks, I hate to say this, but you're always going to have folks that aren't going to embrace this technology. We've come to find that population is very, very small, very few and far between. So what I really like about video proposals is, number one, every time you print out a quote proposal, it's 5, 6, 7, 10 pages. I mean, you guys said you're more on the personal line side of things, right? So whether you're doing a home, auto, life, umbrella, boat, motorcycle, I mean, you could have a couple dozen pages there. So not only is it more environmentally friendly to use a video, I put Loom up here because that was the software we were using at the time, but a video proposal also does what? Think outside the box here for a second. Bingo. During the pandemic, people could not come see me. They wanted to. They missed me. I'm not saying that to talk myself up, but you miss seeing people. I miss seeing my bank teller. It's just the way it was. You get used to seeing people, but you're exactly right. It puts your face in front of theirs. Now, as an account executive, or we call them account managers, are you guys using these for renewals?
No, we are not, but my account manager was in one of your meetings earlier and told me I needed to be doing video proposals. So that will be happening.
Well, I'm really inspired and happy that that's something you took away from that. One of the things that video proposals do is it helps you with an E&O claim as well, because you can have a recording and a proof of exactly what you advise this person on. So like what we hear in Ohio all the time, especially in Youngstown, is, you know what, I don't know if I want to take the $15,000 water backup. Our claims data shows that in our area, the average water backup claim for a finished basement is between $8,000 to $12,000 starting. So I tell people that. I give them that statistic on the video proposal, and then if they have a claim and say, well, we decided to take the $5,000, you never told us about that, we can go back and say, well, actually, on our proposal, originally, not only are we saving paper, not only is the process more efficient, not only is the close ratio close to 85%, but we also can say at the end of it, listen, this is how we advised you based on what you told us. What you chose to do from there was entirely up to you. So I really like using texting, too. Texting is fantastic. I'm going to shamelessly promote HawkSoft texting because I use it a lot. My clients really like it. It doesn't matter their age. It doesn't matter what line of business you use. I have people that are life-only clients, right? Obviously, you want to round everybody out. But these are people that will text me all the time, or commercial clients, or hey, Leo, here's a picture of that brand new Bobcat skid steer I bought. Here's a picture of the VIN number because I don't feel like typing it out, and I don't want the dealership to have to fax you something, right? How many people still get faxes from dealerships about stuff? I don't like when dealerships do that. If I could cut the dealership out of the transaction, I totally would, because they never give us what we want, and they're always, kind of they're a dealership about it, right? No insults to car dealerships. It's just they're focused on the car, not what we have to do. So I highlighted e-signature because that's totally where I'd start. Definitely up here, download everything, digital ID cards. How many people are leveraging a mobile app or talking about ID cards? Dirk, which app are you using?
Hey, Dirk. Hang on one second.
Oh, sorry. I'm talking too fast for the online folks.
Insurance agents.
Okay.
So,
Are you? What's your response rate from your client base on that?
we're evaluating that right now. We've had it for a couple of years, and it's been hit or miss with the adoption rate of people that actually download it and use it.
Sure.
And literally, we were just looking at that. I was on their site, which I neglected. It was one of those things where I kind of set it and forget it. And those people that were using, great, but we really weren't pushing others to use it or as much as we should have. They got the obligatory, when you welcome to our agency, and then we hit them with, 5 to 7 emails over the next 3 months, whatever. Hey, download our app. But I was never going in, or we weren't going in. We didn't have a process or anything in place to go back in and make sure they actually did that. Because when you talk to someone and tell them the value of that, you can record, you have an accident, you can pull your docs up, your ID cards, all those things. Like, oh, wow, I really didn't realize that. So that's us. It's shame on us for paying for something that we're not utilizing.
I'm right there with you. We've had things slip, but that's interesting. Okay.
Would you recommend just then you receive your standard change request? Would you say just send them back to your app?
Well, what our philosophy at Gem Young is, we want to be where you want us to be. Our belief is that digital technology, automation, and paperless philosophy is not meant to replace the client experience, simply to enhance it. So to answer your question, if you're I have an excavation client, and they do a lot of big-time commercial stuff. So we're making certs for them quite literally all the time. So they are old school, very old school, great clients, but they're going to send us an email with a copy of the cert request. I have a trucker that we put on HawkSoft self-service certificates because they need certs and need them right now. Because the trucking world right now is so. Anybody write trucking? Yeah, it's cutthroat. If you don't have a cert in 15 minutes, it's quite literally a rampage. So I would direct people based on your process. So if your process internally, you decide we want our certs coming through the mobile app. We feel it's the best way for our clients. We want our account executives watching that part of our process more often. Then that's what I would coach your clients on doing. I think there's a lot of right ways to get to paperless. I'm just here to provide you with a couple of ways that I think work for me. Does that kind of help? Okay. Matt Aaron. I told him I'd shamelessly plug him. So that's my shameless plug for Matt Aaron. Matt, if you're watching this, you're awesome. Okay. Now, like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I have some of them. Is there any other paperless philosophies up here or activities to go paperless that you guys have done that maybe I'm missing that the group could benefit from?
I'll tell you what I have right here. I love handwritten notes. My desk still is covered in paper, but all of my handwritten notes are on this. It's called a Remarkable 2. I can, if anybody can see that. So I'll fill out like a client intake on here, and our intake form is basically 4 pages. We used to have to fill them out, give them to the CSR, have them scan it into HawkSoft and save it that way, and it would have all of the intake on the home, on the auto, and then like an instruction page, like you still need to set up the billing account or whatever. Now I just have that as a template on this. I fill it out, and then just push one button, it emails it to my CSR. They don't have to scan it. They love it. Anyway, it's awesome. We're working on doing away with all paper, and it's like $400. Eventually, I'll get them for everybody in the staff. But anyway, that's what I do.
Some of our staff uses that too, and they love it.
They're great.
It's a really, really cool thing.
It's my favorite toy.
My marketing guy does that. He's got one of those new Windows laptops, and this guy's always got the new tech and stuff. Even if he doesn't need it, he's got it. So it's a really cool thing is my point. Now, my question and what was your first name? Ben. I'm going to start giving out swag to everybody that participates. It's just don't let me forget. So Ben, is that something that you can put a fillable PDF on too?
Yeah. Anything you want, you just you have a folder like on your desktop, and you can drag in any PDF you want in there, and you can put out. You could sign your apps if you wanted to on it. You just drag them into the folder, and then it just pops it on here. You sign it. We still use DocuSign for all that kind of stuff because it's just easy.
Sure.
But you can do that. So I have my intake form as a template in here. Any other forms that I regularly use are a template on here. So I'll just like duplicate it, rename it to, John Smith intake form or whatever, and then just start taking my notes like I normally would. It's, super easy. Saves a lot of time, and it's easy for me to refer back to. Like I have 15 pages of notes from the conference here, just on here, and I can kind of flip back to them easy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What's that called? It's called a Remarkable 2. Remarkable, yeah. And if you get the black pen. There's a gray and a black one. The black one has an eraser on the tip. You don't think it's a big deal, but it's huge.
That's true. He's absolutely right. Our life guy got that. To give you some context, Ben, the first person in our agency to buy one of those is 71 years old. His name is Sam, and I hope Sam watches this. Just a fun story about Sam. He's got a mini fridge in his office that always has a stick of pepperoni and fontanella cheese. So when you go to help Sam about his technology, he takes a brick of cheese and rips it off and rips you off a piece of pepperoni, and it smells like feet. But no, Sam, see, you guys are awake. That's why I told you the story. Sorry, Sam. But no, that's awesome. So my point is, and Ben, I'm really glad you brought that up because I wrote this in 2020 for the 2020 convention that we didn't get to have. It doesn't matter how old people are. If you could make one thing from this slide and one thing from me right now, purge the notion in your mind that you have to be young to embrace technology. I have a 52-year-old and a 34-year-old that are still learning how to make things print to PDF. And that's not an insult to them at all, or to their work ethic, or their intellect, or their experience. It's just sometimes I would at this point in time, I would purge the notion from your mind that age and technology are correlated. So. What's up?
Get the mic to you here 1 second.
Your videos for, you said for a quote, do you have like a general format, or do you have like, it's like whenever you sell somebody, you send them like a specific video tailored to them, or is like a general, like, hey, you only applied for this, you didn't apply for that, like what do you?
Would you guys like to watch one?
Sure.
I mean,
cool.
We have a warehouse on our website. The format is really based on the product that they need and how we're going to advise them. So I have what's called a cover page that's just who I am, introducing me a little bit. And then it's really going to depend on what we're talking about. So for commercial lines, it's a little different than personal lines, a little different than life insurance. But I'll send you a link to one of them. That way I don't take up everybody else's time. But if you want a link.
I guess just the question is it a general video, or do you tailor it to each person? So
oh, that question. Yeah. No, it's tailored to every individual person. I record a video.
So you make a video every single time?
Every single time, because one of the things I promise is that when I customize something for you, it's truly tailored for you. I tell all my clients that because of this engineering mindset I was raised in, I have to get the details right. So every video I record is for that particular client. So if you were coming to me, it would be just for you. And if Dirk had a very similar company, it'd be just for him. So it's nice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, why you want to make sure that that's customized to them, branded to their name, that sort of thing, because if not, I could just go to Geico and they can send a quote to me, and they could video it, and here's your 100, 300, or 1535, have a nice day. Where I think, again, you're making contact with them, but you're developing a relationship with them even though you're not in front of them, and they're watching you and believing you and can see that you're actually trying to point out and highlight things that's making you different. So few people we all sit there and shake our head and say, we're going to use video when we get back. And I bet you only 3 or 4 people do, which is shame on all of us, because they say the statistics are through the roof in terms. I was in a class earlier, the guy said they through video proposals were closing 91% of their quotes.
Yeah.
I mean, just think the average right now is what, 25, 30% maybe, but add 15% of that and think of the revenue generated for your agency is going to be, and your retention and everything else. You're differentiating yourself. People buy from people they know, like, and trust.
They see your face, it's custom. And you know what? We're at an 83 on there, and I'd love to get to a 91. Can I give you a mentality for the video proposals that I took that totally made it easy on me, right? So you do a presentation for personal lines or commercial lines or whatever, and you would customize your presentation in person to that individual or that business or that family, right? The video proposal is meant to replace that. So it takes about an hour to maybe present something. Nobody meets for less than an hour. It's just the way it works. That's kind of the way we meet. So you can record the video tailored to just that person, send it, edit it, attach PDFs of everything, and get that done in about 25, 30 minutes. So anybody in here that's a sales manager or an agency owner, that just made your sales process or twice as efficient because it takes half as long. So.
Bring your mic here.
Your whole book of business, not the whole, but a majority is farmers. Like, how do you even present to get them on board with all the technology?
Well,
Like
we're
our book of business is farms.
farmers.
Farmers. Farms. No, like.
Oh,
yeah,
agriculture. I'm
farms.
sorry. I thought you meant like a farmer's contract, like the farmer's company.
No,
No,
farmers.
actual farmers.
Farmers.
Oh, this is a tough one. I don't write a lot of farms.
So like me and her, we're together and we're discussing like some of the stuff that we've gone through in the last 2 days. It's just, some of it's just never gonna work for our agency, and obviously every agency's different, but we're a small town and huge into farms.
Well, let me ask you this. Are your farmers embracing things like EFT?
No,
Do you offer EFT?
yes,
How do you sell EFT?
that's a good question. How do we sell it?
Because I had to do this with my agency, because I'm in Youngstown, Ohio, okay, which since the 1980s has been a declining steel town. Thankfully, the last 5 years we've started to come back, but like you, we had a lot of insureds on our books in 2016 that were old school. My grandpa wrote them in the 50s and 60s. They did it the old way, so what we had to do is we actually had to resell them. So part of it was raising the standards, and part of it was appealing to why it works for them. So for something like EFT, we would ask them, do you want to get a bill in the mail? With Grange Insurance, they charge you $6 a month delivery fee. Listen, we want to keep you around, but we don't want to unnecessarily charge you this. We just want to make sure you're aware that your choice to receive paper is now going to cost you more money. And I don't want to commoditize that, but is it easier to say, okay, you've been with us 20 years. What's $6 a month over 20 years? It's a lot of money, right? So I would find ways to take this technology and appeal to your unique book of business. For us, people didn't want to hassle. We were spending a fortune on reinstatements and chasing people down for payments. And what really worked with a book of business that's very old school was to start really slow. So we started with EFT, right? At renewal, we kind of just started talking to them about it and rolling them on. And then a couple months later, we started with electronic signatures, right? And we wouldn't say things like, oh, here's this cool new technology, we think you should use it. We would say, listen, you're a busy guy, or you're a busy woman. You own a business. We want you to be able to spend time focusing on what you care about the most. So we'll just send it to you. Sign it at home later, right? Don't worry about getting it in the mail. Don't worry about stopping in the office. You don't have to check your fax. It's a tough sell. I will say that.
It's gonna be tough because they like coming in the office. My boss is huge on sell the service. So everybody's different and where y'all come from, but it's a small town. Like, these people come in and they sit and they have coffee and donuts, and
Yeah.
we have our little conference area, and it's gonna be tough.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have a
Like the
location
younger
that's
ones
like
that
that.
we're bringing in, obviously that's, sign the applications, e-sign. But I'm talking to his huge book is farms that he's been insured forever with us. Right. So there's no way that, some of this stuff is all great, but like I was telling her, through the last 2 days, some of this just would never work for our agency.
Well, I would ask you this question. If I was putting on your hat and you were one of your clients, I would ask them what other sort of technologies they're already using. I wouldn't be confrontational. I would just ask them, do you have HughesNet? That's the more rural internet, right? I would ask them if they have things like smartphones, if they have a PlayStation or an Xbox, or if they have a computer, if they have a modem. I'd kind of feel out what their technological prowess is as it is. You might be right. It might be a market that we just can't get technology to. But at this point,
There's just that group I just can't see it changing.
I may have a suggestion, I don't know, you might.
Let me bring this to you.
A lot of our clients before were older Latino, Mexican, Central American people. They're not really into technology. They don't even have a Gmail. So one of the first things I did, I started showing them how to make a Gmail. Like, hey, let me show you how to make a Gmail. I know they had a smartphone, so I created the email for them, and then I started sending them stuff on it, and they liked it, and then it became addicting.
that's a brilliant idea.
How to text, how to Yeah, yeah. My mom, if you see her, it's funny because I don't know if you noticed, but my mom always texts us, but she can't see, so everything's a lot bigger for her, but she uses it more than me. So once they get it, they love it. I think they love it more than us. You know, like the people that don't know how to use technology, don't like it. Once they start using it, they don't want to stop. That's what I did, and it worked. So now all my clients, they use DocuSign, even if they're not doing it before.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I really like that. That's a really brilliant suggestion.
Something as simple as Google Maps, you know, how to use it. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Something else I think you could do with DocuSign, and I know FormStack Sign will do this, is you can have an in-person signer. So to start to warm them up, is you can just have them sign things electronically in person. So like I said earlier, you don't want to replace the client experience, you want to augment it. So if you had an iPad with their application onto their change form, they still want to come see and have the coffee, they can, yeah.
It simulates like the in-person experience, but it's still digital.
What's your first name?
Andy.
Andy. Did everybody hear what Andy just said? Do you want to repeat that? Because I like that.
Like with the iPad, it like simulates the in-person experience, but it's still digital. So like they still get the personal interaction and you still have no paper.
So they can still come to your office and have coffee, and you can get to know them and chat and all the relationship stuff that's really valuable to them. But you're not printing out paper, you're not paying someone to scan it. You're just like, here, okay, just sign it with your finger real fast, right? And what's your first name again? I know I'm Juan. Jose. I'm sorry, I was looking at the J. Sorry. We had breakfast the other day. You had a lot of really good ideas. Yeah, you guys probably run a very efficient ship over there, so I really appreciate the participation. This is really good stuff, guys. This is why I like HawkSoft. It's not me giving you all the answers. As a collective unit, we kind of figure out how to make everything better. So let's move forward. So some tips and tricks we kind of already covered. I am a big fan of this one right here. I think this is your key to success. So if you're starting at the bottom and you don't have a lot of paperless already or a lot of tech, I'd ask your staff for their feedback. What can I do to make your life easier? Kind of go with a servant leadership mentality here. What are your blocking issues? What are you running into? How do I make your processes easier? And they'll tell you. Smaller agencies, you have an advantage. I will say this. A smaller agency can change things so much quicker just because you have less people and less bodies, truthfully. The big agencies can do it. You just have to be a little more patient. I would definitely say patience, patience, patience. Something that, as a 29-year-old, I'm not very good at all the time. But when you can have that patience, it'll pay off in the long run. I like having a power user. You should not have the CEO of the company as your power user. If it's a service process, pick your service person. When we came to electronic signatures, we have an employee. Her name is Bonnie. I love Bonnie dearly. Bonnie does not have any filter. So Bonnie will tell you exactly what she thinks, how she thinks it. It can be a challenge. So when we came out with electronic signatures, I'm this 25-year-old boss's son, and I'm walking in like, hey, we got to do electronic signatures, and everyone's like, dude, no. No, you've been here for like 3 months. Get out of here. You're still learning the business. And I'm like, well, okay. So I worked with Bonnie, and Bonnie eventually became my biggest electronic signature adopter. She was my biggest fan. She told all of our clients about it, and Bonnie is 68, 69. But Bonnie was one of those people that I sat with her every day. All right, Bonnie, we're doing a car change. Let's do it together. Let me show you how to do this. So I designated a power user, and I took someone that was my biggest detractor and literally used the F word. I cannot repeat the things that she said. We had to have sensitivity training about it, actually. It's kind of funny, but it's also like, it's 2020. Anyway, so I would take your biggest detractor and try to make them your power user. And once you do that, every time she's on the phone, she's like, hey, we have this really cool thing. It's called DocuSign. I'm going to send it over to you. Sign it. Here's how you do it. My trick with DocuSign was follow the yellow brick road because all the buttons are yellow. So I hope that might, how do I do this? Just keep clicking yellow buttons, So that's it. Okay. Yeah, it's what it is. If there's nothing else you took from HawkSoft, yeah. That guy from Youngstown told me to follow the yellow brick road. Yeah. So how do you know when it's time to do something internally and when it's time to do something externally? Things like the scanning folder. Those can be internal. Everybody knows that there's Accord forms in HawkSoft, right? Is anybody still writing Accord forms by hand? Oh, thank God. You guys are?
I mean, I'm just too lazy to look for them. I don't fill so many of them, but yeah, sometimes I fill out by hand just because I'm so lazy to think.
Would you like me to show you how to find them?
Sure.
Okay. And the reason I'm doing this is huge, because anybody that plays in commercial lines knows that you're going to have a 125, a 126, a 140, and that's not just including the umbrella and inland marine and all this other stuff. So part of the reason I want to show you this.
Remember where they were in HawkSoft, actually, in FSC?
Okay.
And I just Googled the form, and I'm like, I don't have patience to look for it, just print them.
Hey, that's okay. That's what this is all for. Because when you make them in HawkSoft, you can just attach a copy to the client file already. So, oh, come on. Can't wait till they're done with parallels. Okay. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is actually me. Can you tell I like the Steelers? I can't even say that without backtracking it. That sounds terrible. Okay, so if you are here, right, we have a lot of different ways to get to Accord forms. What I did is on my, and I don't have it on here, on my CMS at home, I have a button that says Accords. So if you go to the HawkSoft lab, they'll show you how to build a button. But if you need to get to Accords, you go to Action, Internal. And if you click New, you can search for any Accord form out there. So let's use a 125, right? So now here's your 125 Accord form. And let's say anybody that writes with, we'll use Atlantic Casualty. You can input all of this in here, check what you got to check. You can fill this out. So I can't talk and type at the same time, a skill I never mastered. Right? Okay, we're not going to fill out the whole thing. But when you're done, you go to this thing up here, and you can attach a copy. If you have to send this for signature, this will automatically link to your DocuSign. If you want to print it, which I hope you're not using that button, that kind of defeats the purpose of today. Or you can send it in an email. So if you're sending it to one of your account executives or your salespeople over there, hey, I made these Accords, look them over for renewal, let's double check them. Instead of printing them, walking over to their desk and setting it there, you can just email it to them, they can review it at their own time. So let's just attach the copy, right? You're done, here we go. Okay, so if you come over here to attachments, there's your Accord form. That's, hey, you know what? That's what this whole thing's for. Let's say you filled this out wrong. Let's say you typed in the wrong thing, right? You can go back to this Accord, remember, internal, Accord, and you can double click on it and edit it. So if you have to save a different copy if you've messed it up, Dirk, you got something.
I was saying, but if you do that, it creates another form in there.
It does.
So you have to be careful that, like, you don't archive the other one.
Uh-huh.
Now, one thing I just thought about, the aha moment right there, go back to the log node where you were. If you cancel out of that and just go back to the log page, I'm wondering right now, if people are familiar with working documents, now that that's in there, you might be able to right-click and make that a working document and edit it right there. So you wouldn't have to go all the way back into the Accord forms.
Okay, that's a good point.
So it does work.
That does work.
But no, the long story short is if you do make a mistake, you see it, you just like Leo said, you go back in, it does create another Accord form, so you just have to make sure, like I said, to archive the one before or know that that's the latest revision that you made of that. But yeah, one thing to be careful though is when you're going through those, like when you pulled up the 125, there's a 125 and then 125 FL for like specific state specific. So just pay attention. Sometimes I've clicked on it and you're like, what the heck is this Accord form? Yeah, I don't know what, I thought I was on a 131 or whatever and I wasn't. So you just have to kind of be careful to make sure you're picking. There's also ones that are dated. So it'll say like 16/3, so March of 16 is when they did that one, and then you'll see another one there. You can see the version dates, so make sure you take the latest version too.
Well, Dirk, that's a fantastic point. I'm glad you brought up the working document. Okay, ma'am in the back. Paperless. Yeah, that's what we're here for, right?
I was just going to say, you might want to show her where, you can do multiple Accord forms.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So in the application of a commercial scenario here, you're doing a commercial new client. So you open this back up, right? This is a 125. A 125 is the general commercial application, but if you want to add the liability to it, so instead of doing one, I'm going to get you some swag. That was a brilliant idea. Thank you very much for bringing this up. So if you want to add multiple forms to one document, you come up here to Add. And then you can search a new one and type in 126, and then you double click it, and then you add it. Now we're going to go to another example, and we're going to go to a 140. Everybody knows what an Accord 140 is, right? Let's say you already filled it out and you just want to add one of the pages. You can just click one page. So that way, instead of adding an extra 140, so if you have a multiple location company, which everybody's going to run across those, or you have 4 or 5 locations, and you don't want to keep attaching forms, you can just attach one of those parts. You don't have to attach the whole thing. Does that help you at all? Good. You know what? That makes me excited. As long as someone's getting something out of this, then my time is not wasted. I love it.
Hey, Leo,
I absolutely love it. Yes.
One other quick tip on Accord forms that some people don't know about is yeah, there's a lot of them, but you can actually go in and create your own custom category or list of forms that maybe are just unique to you. So when you go into Accord forms, all you see is just your list. So if you want to learn more, I would say definitely visit the lab, but another good tip and trick.
Did you guys all follow what he's saying? So I'm going to go back real fast. So if you come up here to category, instead of all forms, go to my list, category setup. And then if you want to create a category for like your producers, you can put 125, 126, 140. If you want to come up with categories for your CSRs, you can have like auto change forms. Your producers, you can include agent of record change, anything else. I mean, the possibilities are quite literally endless. But you get some swag too. But I know you work for HawkSoft, so.
And they have the same thing for templates, like email templates. I did that for our CSR, where you can create your own little template library for each specific person in the office. So whether, like you said, whether a producer or not. So that was another one that someone showed us a little while back. Like, oh, wow, instead of her having to sift through 50 different templates, now she had her 4 or 5 that she used all the time for notice of cancellation or pending or whatever it was.
It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. So paper Accord forms, we used to do that. Same with Accord cancellation forms. It's the same thing because when I got the Gem Young, same thing. Everybody hand wrote Accord cancellation forms, which you'd be shocked at how many competitors of mine still do that. I'm like, dude, why? I mean, I don't care. Obviously, you're my competitor, so please stay in the Stone Age. Hey, not my problem. But it's amazing. So that's one small little thing that might save you a bunch of time. So sometimes it makes sense to bring in a third party. Things like electronic signatures, things like VoIP, things like a rater, a mobile app. Those are all really good things to go see vendors, and the vendors don't pay me commission, so I don't care which one you see. I would tell you, like I've been telling everybody, find the vendor and find the process that fits your agency the best, whatever works best for you. Sometimes things are meant to be internal, like Joe? Ben, I'm sorry. Man, I traditionally suck at names. Yeah, anyway. Well, like Ben with the Remarkable, that might be a process internally where you guys set aside some business development dollars to say, okay, we're going to buy 1 of these or 2 of these for our staff to be able to write this stuff down and save paper that way. So kind of leverage, that's going to have to be a judgment call on your part. Got to weigh in the budget. Got to definitely figure out the cost-benefit analysis of all that. The bigger agencies that might have more stuff to throw around, just because you have more money doesn't mean you have to spend more money. But I would definitely get a demo of everything. Always get a demo. And in the engineering world, to tie this back again, there's a process called a PFMEA, which is a potential failure mode and effect analysis. So basically, we're going to figure out how to break something. So I would take that mentality, figure out how to break the software. Because you want to, I know that sounds terrible, but what you want to do is figure out, okay, what does my people do if we put the wrong email address in e-signature? What happens if we register someone with the wrong email address on the mobile app? What happens if, oh my God, we're putting the wrong agent 1 field in agency Zoom, right? You want to try to get ahead of any of these problems ahead of time, because when you have those developers in front of you, those marketing reps and those support people at these tech firms are really, really good resources to help you get ahead of any problems. So I've had this when I didn't do a good job of that, and it was a lot harder to implement. So that's why I'm bringing that up. So what if my clients ask for paper, right? I actually had a slide on this. I forgot I had a slide on this. I don't offer paperless. Paperless is not an option at Gem Young. It's our standard. So when you are a new client with Gem Young, you have to ask me for paper. You have to ask me. Or if we're writing life insurance. Anybody that writes life insurance in here? Unfortunately, they still believe it's 1989. Nothing wrong with 1989, 2 years before I was born, but still, they still are there. They're getting better. Companies like Nationwide are offering electronic signatures and auto owners, and I love it. I love it. But if you have to use paper, that's okay. Sometimes we're just not all the way there yet as an industry. But we just offer it. So when I have a new client and I say that we're ready to go, and they say, Leo, this is terrific. Oh my God, you're the best insurance agent in the world. I can't wait to do business with you. Nobody says that. I say, okay, I'll send you over the documents to sign electronically. We'll text you your ID cards. You know, when you have a picture of that, seriously, we just tell them this is our process. And the crazy part is most people don't really argue with me. They just say, okay, that's your process. It's kind of cool. So it's a very, and I'm going to belabor this point one more time. It's a very small thing, but how you set the tone is how that relationship goes forward. So I would strongly encourage that. I kind of push back a little bit. Leo, can you send me a bill every month? Sure, I can. Are you okay with paying an extra $6? If you're cool with that, no problem. I don't care. It's your money. I'll send you a bill. But I just want you to know there's other options. Question in the back.
Yeah, you know, I had pushback sending ID cards through email. Okay, you know, people still want through email, but when we started doing texting, you know, and I have found it's very easy to text an ID card to someone. I mean, it's right there on their phone. I mean, I know email's right there on your phone, but for whatever reason, texting is easier to look at than an email on most folks' phones. So I've turned the corner on that. You know, just print it out and I'll come out and pick it up to, oh yeah, great, it's on my phone now.
What was your aha moment? What got you to that point?
I don't know. Well, when we got the ability to text, you know, I just started doing it. I mean, I didn't really give nobody an option. You know, instead of just saying, hey, I'll shoot you an email, I was like, hey, we can text now. Let me just text it to you. And it just went from that, you know.
I love it. And what I tell people is you can screenshot that text. And especially people with teenage drivers, I obviously don't have any kids, but if you have teenage kids, they're on their phones. We're all on our phones, right? So you can just screenshot that to them, and that saves you from calling us in 2 weeks because Leo Jr., me, forgot to put the ID card in the car and got pulled over again. True story. Yeah, my dad was not thrilled. Mobile app, absolutely. Yes, the mobile app is a terrific, terrific tool for ID cards, but if you can't afford the app or if that's not in your budget this year, texting is a really, really good way to distribute that document too. So once you get some momentum, you don't want to stop. I will absolutely say that with paperless, and we're coming up here on the last 8 minutes, so if you guys have questions, interrupt me, please. You guys have been great about that. Once you get your momentum, keep chugging along. Take that power user, right? Bring them into the fold. And maybe Bonnie, your power user for electronic signature, isn't the same power user for the mobile app. You know, try to pick somebody, and everybody that gets to contribute, they get their buy-in, they get their fingers on it, they get their hands on it, and suddenly it's not Leo Jr. and the management team are saying we have to do X, Y, Z. Suddenly it's, oh, well, the service team helped us build this, so the service team's teaching sales how to do stuff. Or the sales team decided they want fillable PDFs, so the service team's going to be in that too. Pop quiz. Anybody know what an OFI is? Opportunity for improvement. In the Six Sigma and ISO culture, one of the things that manufacturers are super good at is they make a huge deal out of OFIs, and they reward their employees handsomely for finding OFIs, because what you're doing is you're turning your employees into efficiency experts. And when you're encouraging your employees to come to management and say, hey, listen, this is great, but I got a way that maybe we can do this better. They're having the opportunity to buy into your process. Plus, they're helping you. You've got their buy-in to win. So it could be a gift card. It could be you take someone to lunch. You know, I've had employees come to me and say, Leo, I have a really good idea. What do you think? And I'm like, oh my God, I never thought of that. It's brilliant. So I would encourage doing that. That's less of a paperless thing and more of a how do you maintain going forward. You know, the Accord things that we were talking about, that was not my idea. That was actually our old operations manager. She's like, why are we writing these? We should be doing that. I'm like, I didn't even know we could do that in HawkSoft. So it's kind of cool. I would definitely audit your process, and don't audit yourself. Do not audit yourself, because everybody thinks that we're awesome. Just like when you ask someone about their life insurance, no one's unhealthy. And no one ever smokes, by the way. No one ever smokes. No one smokes. It's just true. Yeah. Everybody has a cigarette now and then. It's not the end of the world. I'm kidding. Don't smoke cigarettes. It's bad. But audit yourself. Have the service manager audit the sales team. Have the sales manager audit the electronic signatures we're using for change forms, because you have a non-biased person looking at a process. So I would do these audits periodically. The frequency, I would say, is completely up to you and your agency. However often you see fit. If you have an agency full of 5 or 6 people, it might be easier to have a line of sight. If you have an agency of 50 or 60, you might want to do these maybe once a month, just because of the sheer volume there. You guys have been great about questions, so I don't want to beg for questions, but do you guys have anything that we missed, anything you want to chime in on, any other ideas that you want to share for the group? You guys have been amazing. Okay.
A big step for moving paperless at the first agency I worked for was just, all we did was enter the contact info into the certs. It was my role, actually. I was the certificate processor, and I just took the initiative to put in the email address. And now there's no opportunity for that cert to not get emailed out. So if your CSRs have the email address, put it in the system.
That's a really good point, too. How many, are you guys all asking for email addresses at the time of sale? Okay, that's a good point. That's awesome. Anybody else got anything they want to chime in on? Okay. Well, if you guys liked what I had to say and you want to reach out to me, that's how you get a hold of me. If you thought this was a waste of your time and you want to send me some hate mail, that's how you get a hold of me, too. No, but in all seriousness, you guys are an amazing group. I wish you all the best. I hope you learned something. Thank you for coming to my session. We're going to end a couple of minutes early, so enjoy the rest of your trip. Thanks, everybody.